I work in a data center and obviously every day presents itself with something new. Sit at desk all day sometimes, yep. Crawl across ladder racks running fiber next day, yep. Therefore, you dress for comfort and any situation. Which is generally jeans, t-shirt, sneakers, and for me a fleece jacket because it's cold as balls. Many years back, our boss informs us that his boss and a few other VPs are coming in for a tour and we need to be dressed up. His boss is new to him and he wants us to make a good impression, but when we ask for clarification, he didn't have an answer, just look nice. Cue malicious compliance. There were only 5 of us working in this location and 3 of the 4 guys had tuxedos, the other one, a nice suit. I had a great floor-length formal gown. So on the day in question, we arrived earlier than usual in our spiffiest studs. When our boss arrived, he straight panicked. He was convinced that this would not go over well. We calmly explained that he's the one that told us to dress up and we had. Plus, there was no time for us to change before the tour was going to arrive. A few minutes later his boss rolls up and the 5 of us, plus our boss are in the front lobby to greet him. Our boss is terrified. He came through the door, took one look and almost fell over. I've never seen anyone laugh so hard in my life. He insisted on taking pictures of it with us and said it was the best thing he'd seen in a long time. Our boss of course then switched gears and acted like he'd been in on it and thought we were hilarious too. Okay. Our photo made the second level's wall and even went out during a team meeting a few weeks later. It's still one of my favorite work memories. Our boss was much more succinct going forward when he wanted us to dress up. My friend and I were in Tesco food shopping. As we turned into an aisle there was a man with his trolley stretched across the aisle, blocking it, and an elderly lady asking him politely to move. He ignored her then snapped "You can wait" at her. She simply turned around and went back down the aisle away from him. As we shopped we saw this same interaction a couple more times. Now, we don't know the details of how it started but this man was deliberately seeking the old lady out and blocking her way. As we turned into the biscuit aisle, about 2/3 of the way down was the man, with his trolley behind him, engrossed in the biscuits. As we approached I looked at my friend and gently pushed my trolley forward and in front of her. She immediately gripped the trolley handle and I walked up to his trolley, gripped the handle, and we were off. We didn't rush, got to the end of the aisle and turned into another aisle. We took his trolley, very full, to the far corner of the store and left it. When we reached the checkout we told the cashier we had seen an abandoned trolley in the far corner, didn't want good food wasted / going off. I just wish I could have seen his face when he turned round with his packet of biscuits to find his trolley gone. Update, an award. Thank you. Update, more awards, thank you so much. My 29F, love, 28 meters, has been acting strange for several days now, needlessly lying about small ridiculous things, hypervigilant of his phone, to the point he'd changed all his PWs, removed my Face ID, and wouldn't leave the room without it, and I couldn't figure out what was going on so eventually my anxiety kicked in and it was fed up. So I confronted him and started crying uncontrollably and was snotting everywhere, not making any sense, and basically didn't calm down till he whipped out his phone and showed me the receipt from his most recent purchase. An engagement ring and matching wedding band. I don't know when or how or where it will happen but I'm so freaking happy it's going to but also super bummed that my stupid anxiety effed this up for us. In the meantime, I guess I'm engaged to be engaged? TLDR, BF was trying to keep the ring a secret and my anxiety was like LOL nope we don't do secrets here sir. This happened about 15 years ago. I was living with my boyfriend at the time and I quickly learned he was very messy and cleaning was a foreign concept. As an example, I placed the hamper right by where he dressed / undressed. It took more effort to not put his clothes in the hamper than to put them in and still he would not do it. I talked with him about it and made rules on who does what to keep our place decent. Of course this still didn't work. One of the rules is alternating who cleans the litter box for our cat. I did it one day he did it the next. He failed at all of the things we agreed on and I got frustrated and decided I wouldn't do his part for him. It was okay but getting quite messy after a week but the most noticeable item was the litter box. I tried to remind him on things but never worked out. One day the litter box was just so awful and I was on the brink of breaking my strike. I asked him again if he could finally clean the litter box. He said he'd do it later. This escalated into an argument because it was just too much. That's when, mid-argument, our cat decided to voice his own revenge. He hopped into my boyfriend's suitcase, left open in the middle of the floor for weeks, not surprisingly, and took a massive dump. The argument came to a halt, the litter box and suitcase were cleaned, And I love that cat more than I ever did that boyfriend. Why does every random person off the street think I have some magical rate I can give them just because they asked for it? No, I am not going to give you a room for a flat 50 tonight, and yes, 96.86 is the best I can do. No, I cannot change that. No, you being a member of whatever club does not affect the price. Yes, maybe the hotel down the street can do better than I can. Why don't you go ask them? I had a guy come ask for a monthly rate a few minutes ago, and after telling him it would be about 2100 plus, he hit me with a Pawn Stars line, best I can do is 1300. Well, good luck then, sir, have a great day. I had mixed feelings when I did this revenge, but I don't regret it. Happened over 15 years ago when I was 15 and my brother was 17. My brother always uses my things without asking and always tries to deny it and would be too stubborn to admit it. I use his things so he gets equally mad, but difference was, I'm a little bigger than him, so what he wears doesn't fit me and limits to the things what I can borrow. So the only size that's the same is shoes. We both play basketball and I bought myself 150 Jordan sneakers, and of course, he always uses it without my permission and I always see unfamiliar scoffs and all. So my brother has a terrible habit of being late and rush out of the house, so one day, I was doing yard work and I saw him rush to his car. And of course, I saw my sneakers in his hands and he placed it in the trunk. Mind you, he didn't realize I was watching him the whole time. He then realized he forgot something in the house, so he ran back and I quickly ran to his car, popped the trunk and took my sneakers back and then hid. I saw him running back out and left. Then later, he came home really upset and said that he lost his chance at being the starter in our high school basketball team because he didn't have his sneakers. His coach made him run laps and other types of crazy workouts. I gave him that smug look and he never owned up that he took it and realized it was gone. He only said that he forgot his sneakers. I honestly felt bad he lost the chance, but it was really satisfying. I'm a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. I'd rather not get much further than that on identifying information. We do both security and practical assistance like moving displays, escorting juries, and some ceremonial stuff as well. This was the sentencing of an evil flip on several high crime offenses, similar to what a capital offense may be in America. Here high crime is the level above criminal offense, or felony for the rest of the world. He stalked, kidnapped, raped, and murdered a locally famous and growing pop artist who was pregnant. He was charged with stalking, high crime kidnapping, high crime rape, high crime murder, high crime fetal homicide, and a bunch of other stuff. Evil Flip, as he will be referred to from here on out, was on suicide precautions as he made threats against his own life in prison, so he was in spiffy paper clothes. We were well into victim impact statements. The victim had a large family and there were something like 35 individuals addressing the court. We're something like 28 statements into it. Next up was Granddad. These are always really emotional, families are always really upset for good reason, but this 80-plus old guy is the worst I can remember. He was crying, breathing heavily, shaking, the entire sentencing. He was called to make his statement, starts walking up, about past the counsel table. He then turns, tackles the attorneys and Evil Flip. He didn't get much in on the Evil Flip, maybe a kick and 2 punches before 15 of us pile up on him. He was taken into custody, and it quickly became apparent that Evil Flip got what was coming. Evil Flip is screaming and gagging for about 20 seconds, then he starts convulsing, came back in about 2 minutes choking/gagging, really bad. We put him on his side and get an ambulance on the way. The rest of the gallery was evacuated and court went into recess. By time the ambulance arrives he's not breathing, only twitching and has no pulse. They do CPR, take him out to the hospital. He was revived and died later that day. Coroner's report said his brainstem was damaged, his skull was broken, and brain herniated through break in his skull. The Granddad was interviewed by national police who have jurisdiction of courts. He said that he'd been planning that for days, he felt no remorse, said if he had time he would have killed the attorneys too. It also came out that the Granddad was in my country's mob back in the day, had 40 years in prison prior for drowning someone in petrol and lighting their corpse on fire. He was suspected but not confirmed to be involved in several other high-profile murders. He was charged with murder, conspiracy, contempt of court, and 2x simple battery for the attorneys. He was found not guilty of everything except contempt of court, to which he was originally sentenced to 4 years, but it was reduced to terminal probation with home confinement due to his health. I work at a party supply shop. In June, we were very busy with people trying to figure out how to celebrate their graduating family members, make up for missed birthdays, and make any sort of quarantine celebration feel special. A huge part of what our store does is blowing up balloons. You could order them online or walk in. On Saturdays it is a huge mistake to walk in for balloons. One Saturday in mid-June, we were swamped. We had received 50 orders from online and people were lined up to buy some last-minute balloons. We had just opened back up and people were too excited. It caused a 2-hour wait on the balloons. I had told every customer if there was a wait. OSD said it was okay, but one lady was far from that norm. This is how it went. Me equals me. AC equals angry customer. M equals manager. B equals bystander. Me, hi, ma'am. How can I help you today? AC, I want balloons now. Me, there's unfortunately a 2-hour wait on balloons right now. We are so swamped. Is that all right? AC, no. Why can't I get darn balloons right now? Me, there are 50 online orders we have to fill and there are 10 people here who came in before you. I am so sorry for any inconveniences. AC, I only want one balloon and I am here now. Fill it up. Me, unfortunately, AC, I need your manager. While I am getting the manager. B, leave the poor girl alone. If you don't want to wait, you can leave. AC fumed at her and my manager came. M, what seems to be the issue? AC, she won't blow up my balloons now. M, she can't. I told her there is a 2-hour wait. AC starts screaming. M, you need to leave immediately. She waited outside for B to come out and started screaming at her. Moral of the story? Be more like the bystander and stick up, but don't if the Karen is a stalker. In my early 20s I worked for a now out-of-business daycare. Their uniforms were red shirt and pants, I have no idea why. There was a big super Target on my way home and I'd stop there and look around at their cheap DVDs and CDs. I had this sweet elderly woman ask me if I worked there and I said I didn't, but she looked really stressed out so I asked her if I could help her anyways. She had a big list of bands her granddaughter wanted CDs of for Christmas and none of the names sounded real to her, smiley face. So I helped her find a couple and went on my way. Turns out she told the manager his red-headed worker was really helpful but should have been wearing a name tag so she could have given credit where credit is due. So not a dramatic story, but it did crack me up. I wish I was making this one up. I'm a senior network engineer in a school. Currently we are running a number of classes online via Microsoft Teams. Today I was sitting in my office, when a member of staff poked their head in and informed me that they had a Teams call scheduled later in the day. They weren't a teacher so they wouldn't be running it, but instead providing support. As they had never used Teams before, I showed them how it worked and told them they just needed to click the Join Meeting button when they were ready. I, foolishly, believed that was the last that I would see of them. 5 minutes later. User, does the Office desktop have speakers built in? Me, no it doesn't, but in the drawer next to it are a set of headphones with a microphone built in. Just plug them in and it'll all work. 2 minutes later. User, how do I connect the headphones? Now at first I think that maybe they're talking about default audio devices. The headphones are plugged in but not working or connecting to Teams. So I go to the office, explaining how to change the default device as I go. When I get there, the headphones are on the desk, unplugged. User, see, they aren't connected. I'm going to ignore the fact that they let me go through the whole explanation about default devices, without telling me that's not what they were asking about. If they're not familiar with technology I can understand that being a bit confusing. What I'm not going to ignore is the headphones unplugged on the desk. Me, so you can't connect them? User, yes. How do I plug them in? Me, you put the end of the lead in the headphone slot. User. Me, the hole in the front of the computer. User, huh? Me, the green circle. User. Me, next to the USB port. User. Me, do you see the little drawing of the headphones, points this one here. User, oh okay. I understand that some people aren't great with tech, but considering that they had a smartphone on the desk next to the keyboard, that also has a headphone port, this is one I'm going to chalk up to willful ignorance. Over 10 years ago I was struggling with marital issues and decided to seek professional help. I found a well-rated counselor from my insurance company website. The office was 5 minutes from my home. Perfect. On the day of my first appointment I arrived 5 minutes early. As I locked my car I received a call on my cell phone from the counselor apologizing for having auto issues and asking me to reschedule. No problem, I agree to call her tomorrow and reschedule. I make the new appointment and she can see me a couple days later. I showed up and she spends much of the first session grilling me about my willingness to listen to her advice, do her homework assignments and be serious about fixing my marriage. I was a little surprised to be on the defensive when coming for help, but I figured she must have a good reason. Toward the end of my session, which costs my insurance over $200, she handed me a patient agreement form to sign. I read it over and tried not to laugh out loud. It was an agreement to do the assignments, take her seriously, and work hard on my issues. The part that tripped me up was an agreement to always give 24 hours notice of canceling an appointment or pay a no-show penalty equal to the cost of the session. I held up her clipboard and asked, "If I sign this, will you take these sessions seriously?" She looked offended, but replied, "Of course." "And you'll agree to give me 24 hours notice of canceling an appointment or pay me the cost of the session?" She shook her head, "That's not how it works." I handed her the unsigned form on the clipboard and stood, "Sorry, but I don't do one-sided agreements. You owe me money or I can't work with you." I showed myself out as she made a face like a trout gasping out of water. I don't believe my insurance was ever billed. I decided it was cheaper to simply talk to my wife. My marriage is fine now. This happened when I was a freshman in college. It was summer, so I was dressed in shorts and a tank top. My dad was shopping for an interview, so I offered to help him pick out some new looks at Kohl's. He wandered off to find pants, while I was alone picking out shirts and ties. Cue random guy approaching me and asking me a question about if we carry his size. It hadn't hit me yet that he thought I was a store associate. I mean, after all, I was not dressed like a store associate, didn't have a name tag, and instead of placing items on shelves I was pulling out different shirts. He kept following me around, as if he expected his mere presence would suddenly make the knowledge he required come to me. Finally I said, "I don't work here, find someone who does," and he got angry. How dare I lie to him? Thankfully my dad picked that moment to find me, and crazy, entitled guy skulked off to hopefully not berate a random store associate who is paid too little to deal with that. Hey! First post here, and I hope this one will be okay since it is more cute than annoying/exiting, but here goes. Also, I'm on mobile and English is my second language, sorry for any mistakes, smile. I was at a local pet store, looking for some medicine for my sick fish, Popeye. Water changes didn't help, a betta named Reuben. I'm fairly known at the store, both by knowing where almost everything is, and by the employees knowing who I am. So there I am, had just come in and found what I was looking for. Being broke, I couldn't really buy much stuff, but who doesn't a bit of window shopping? I was checking out some aquarium plants when this LG little girl, maybe 3 or 4 years old, approached me and asked, "Do you work here?" Me, "No, I don't," smile. LG, "Why not?" Me, "Because I'm a customer." I turned around, looking for her parents or anyone responsible for her. No such luck. LG, "What is a customer?" Me, "It's the people buying stuff at this or other stores." LG runs over to the tank with the koi fish and bigger goldfish. I take another look around for her parents. I find it a bit weird that they left a 3 or 4-year-old without supervision like this, although she seemed fine. LG, "What fish are these?" Me, didn't quite hear her. LG, "Come see the big fish." Me, "Oh yeah, that's fish you keep in your garden." LG, "Okay." Then she run off. Hopefully towards her parents. I knew there were some grown people in the store, it's just that they were in the other end. An employee approached me when LG run past. I told her about it, she said she'd look after LG, and then I went to the cashier, and walked out of there. Kids. Smile. I live in a state with some of the highest numbers right now because of a lack of mask wearing and distancing protocols. It's a shame. And like many of you here, I still have to pay my bills, and that means going to work every day, to serve those people who won't distance themselves or wear masks, who are the very people driving the numbers up. I've been feeling frustrated with the audacity of these people to comment on my mask. Daily, they ask me things like, "Don't you hate that? Don't you wish you didn't have to wear that? Isn't it hard to work/breathe/talk with that thing on?" And the answer, obviously, is yes. It's annoying. It's hot. It makes my face break out. But you know what? I'm wearing it so you don't get a side of COVID with your fries. I've been at a loss for how to convey this message to people in a way that isn't rude. I was voicing my frustrations to my boyfriend, who came up with this gem, "Your health is worth it." It gets the message across that I'm not wearing it for my own safety but for yours, and I think it has that element of shame for the person asking if I hate wearing that silly thing. That's all. I hope you guys find this useful. Lots of love 20. Stay safe out there. Got a call this morning. A user, a lawyer in the legal department, need to install email software onto his personal phone to get his company email. Because it is the company's email, the security is fairly tight. He was not able to start the process. I asked him what step of the directions was giving him issues. He didn't have the directions. FYI, our old email app was being phased out and today was the last day to install the new app. I sent him the directions. He thanked me and ended the call. He calls back. He says he is not getting the QR code to scan into the app to install the company info into the app. I asked him about step 1 of the directions, which has him log into a website on his PC to generate the QR code. He said he could not sign in. I remotely access his PC and watch him try to sign into a picture of the login page included in the instructions I sent him. I clicked the link above the picture and he was able to sign in. The next step was to click a link within the web page to access the page that would actually generate the QR code. He again clicked on the picture of the link on the instructions. We eventually got the QR code generated to scan into the email app on his phone. I have no idea how this individual managed to graduate from law school and pass the bar. Apparently learning the law does not require anyone to possess common sense, which explains a lot about the criminal justice system in the US. This happened last month. While driving past Panda Express we noticed there is no line. This almost never happens at this time, so my fiancé excitedly points out the lack of line and says he wants to get some orange chicken. He does a U-turn and while we pull into the parking lot he points out there are no cars, stops, and then asks if we should check. I tell him there's no harm in checking and they just might have a whole shift of people without cars like my old job. We go up and hear the pre-recorded welcome to Panda Express but nobody after speaking. A long line starts to begin behind us. I look at the speaker and notice a faded handwritten note on white printer paper that you can barely see against the white speaker saying we're closed, so we drive around and note the closed note on the window as we pass. The long line of people one by one start taking their time to order and pull up to the window before realizing it's closed and leaving. On the way out we let the next car attempting to get into the line know that it's closed as a way for them not to waste a good while of waiting for nothing. The entrance was narrow and they had to wait for us to join the line. They give us the most stank-ass faces I've ever seen and roll their eyes. The guy driving jerks forward a bit aggressively to get us to move. I look over and look at him and the girl next to him and tell my fiancé to drive and let them find out for themselves. I watch them laugh and mock us when we drive around them. We stop at a long red light and I watch them wait what felt like 10 minutes before ordering for a while and then pulling up to the window for too long to read a one-word sign before driving away. We end up going to Dairy Queen and the same car pulls up behind us. I make sure I turn away and give them a friendly wave and laugh as they sink in their seats and duck their heads in embarrassment. Then I got ice cream smile. Is it just me or has there been a lot more moving vans since the US has started opening back up? My hotel has never been able to accommodate these large vans due to my hotel being in the middle of a city with limited parking. Not to mention what parking we do have is underground, not possible to park in 10-foot tall truck. Then of course we get the guests who blindly book, show up, and then ask about parking. Lady, your guess is as good as mine. Well, I need you to accommodate me. It's 2 a.m. I'm the only one here and I don't drive. Good luck out there. The only thing I can really say is if you're driving cross-country with an unusual vehicle, call the hotels you plan to stay at to even see if they have parking for you. If not, find other accommodations. I live and work in Japan. I've been in this country for a few years now and while my Japanese is decent I still make mistakes. Especially with colloquial phrase and onomatopoeias. Anyway, I went to the post office because I wanted to send a package but the conditions that they were asking from me, to split the package into 3 smaller packages for more money. I thought the phrase for it's impossible was mora mora. But instead that phrase means I'm horny. So I basically told the older woman working that I was horny. Sigh. She just looked at me for a while before I realized my mistake. I quickly apologized but the embarrassment was already done. She did laugh so I guess it wasn't so bad. It's still embarrassing. And so you know the phrase for it's impossible is mori mori. DL, drive. I said the phrase I'm horny instead of it is impossible. In Japanese. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. This has now become a learning experience and source of humor. Maybe I'll write a book of wrong-call short stories. Holy Moses in a basket. I've tried linking the other 2 posts but I keep getting auto-deleted for it. So I gave up. Slow day today. Have some music on and considering diving into my lunch 30 minutes early. Phone rings. So IT begins. Cast. Prickle, me. Gravelly voice man, GVM. Me, good afternoon, Prickle speaking, how may I connect your call? GVM, yeah, I'd like to know if you have a, unintelligible, for putting holes in copper bars? Me, I'm sorry. What were you looking for? GVM, I'm looking for a, still don't know what he's saying, for putting a hole in a copper bar. Company name / is busy and I need someone else to come down and drill for me. Me, I think you have the wrong number. We're a public relations firm. We don't own any drills. GVM, oh. Okay. Thanks. /click /. There was a mention on one of my previous posts that another dimension has fused with this one. At this point, I think they might be right. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. I, 27F, used to work at a facility that takes care of people that mentally/physically can't take care of themselves. I did everything for them. It wasn't the easiest job but I came to love the residents and most of my co-workers. My manager P was one of those people. For the first year I was there she was great to work with but not long after she began to change. She would yell and cuss at everyone for the smallest thing, the bed sheets had a corner hanging out, an unused brief, aka adult diaper, was left out, or a sock was laying on the floor. It got to the point that no one wanted to come to work. People were either quitting or constantly calling in. We had almost no staff taking care of over a dozen people. Then one day towards the end of my shift, P comes in after not being there all day and says the place smells like shit and making other complaints. So my co-worker begins spraying air freshener. Well, that wasn't good enough and P sprays a different spray. With the two fragrances in the air, I made a comment saying it was giving me a headache. P didn't like that and begins calling me a smart-ass mouth little girl, that I needed to keep my mouth shut and get my ass back to work. I had enough and I went straight to her supervisor and filed a complaint. There was an investigation and people were interviewed. P seemed to calm down after that, but I was still done, so I put my notice in not long after. I still keep in touch with most of my coworkers, and a few months I get a call from one of my good friends there telling me that P was demoted to my former job and that she was having to train her. I never smiled so much after I got that phone call. So I had been working for a boss that I did not care for at this point in my career. He was a manager and I was the supervisor reporting to him with two other employees beneath me. The company that we worked for had just been sold to another corporation and they were sending their head IT manager in to get answers to several questions about our setup. My boss made it a habit of not being available during key points in time like this. So, it was no surprise when 2 days before the visit he goes on vacation and leaves me there to meet our new boss and answer his questions. Just answer his questions and make sure to do whatever he asks, was how he phrased it. Great. I spend the next day putting together a packet of information diagramming the WAN and LAN configurations, listing our servers and their roles, current needs relating to IT, current budget as I understood it, and etc. Basically, everything that I would want to know if I were the visiting manager. The next morning several managers with the new company showed up, one for finance, one for sales, one for distribution, one for safety and facility, and the IT manager. Everyone met their counterpart and, of course, I was paired up to the IT manager. We left the meeting room when he decided to jump into a tour of the facility. Yes, sir. Right this way, I said as I complied. As we walked through our facility near the end of my tour, I handed him the 5 pages of the report to help answer his questions. He looked through the information and immediately asked me, "Who prepared this information?" I answered truthfully, "I did." He fired back, "Why?" Once again, "I thought this would be some of the information that you would need and you can easily take back with you." He tapped the papers in his hand, "This is actually everything I needed." I smiled. "Want to get some lunch?" "Yes sir," I answered as I ushered him to my car. A few moments later the well-dressed senior manager's eyes opened a little wider as he asked me, "Hooters? Can we go there?" My immediate manager's words echoed in my ears, "Make sure to do whatever he asks. K compliance." "Yes, sir." Of course, I answered as I pulled the car into the Hooters parking lot. An hour later he was picking up the tab and waving bye to the hard-working waitresses. When my manager returned, he asked how did the visit go. I smiled and said, "I followed your instructions to the letter, boss." Stephen was last seen playing with his family's 2 dogs in the 2100 block of Holly Drive in Benton Harbor, Michigan on February 15, 2001. Between 7 and 8 p.m. he was about half a block away from his residence in the 2100 block of Holly Drive at the time of his disappearance. He has never been heard from again. Stephen's mother was preparing dinner while he was out with their dogs and reported his disappearance afterwards. Temperatures in the area were below freezing and remained very cold over the next several days, and Stephen wasn't wearing a hat or gloves. He could not have survived for long outdoors without shelter. Stephen's footprints led past an iced-over pond near his home to Harbor Haven Ministries on Irving Street, 1 block south of Holly Drive. Late in the evening 3 days after Stephen's disappearance, his older dog, a German Shepherd/Chow mix, returned home. The dog apparently led his owners to a nearby pond, but no evidence of Stephen's whereabouts was located in the area. The following day, his 6-month-old German Shepherd puppy was located near Blue Creek, a mile and a half north of Stephen's home. Stephen completed a 5-day suspension from Hull Elementary School shortly before his disappearance. School administrators stated that he defended himself against another student during an altercation. Both boys were suspended. Stephen is described as a good student and the incident marked the first time he was disciplined. He was in the 6th grade at the time of his disappearance. His teachers and classmates stated he was a quiet boy who had few friends. He lived on a dead-end street in Benton Harbor with little traffic, and was familiar with the area. Stephen has relatives living near his home and was well known to the neighbors as well. His house was torn down in 2005 and his parents have since moved to Hagar Township, Michigan. Authorities searched 4 miles of Blue Creek and as well as the pond behind Harbor Haven Ministries in May 2001, but failed to produce any evidence of Stephen's whereabouts. Investigators searched another area of woods near the southwestern Michigan Regional Airport in November 2002, but no evidence was located. In February 2004, Stephen was reportedly seen at Midway Airport in Chicago, Illinois, but the individual sighted turned out to someone else. Investigators have investigated various theories in Stephen's case, such as that he was abducted or ran away from home. No clues to his whereabouts have been discovered and Stephen's case remains unsolved. Just found out about this sub, and thought I'd post this here. Smile. Math has never been my strong suit, and I didn't tend to score well on standardized testing. However, I'm smart in other aspects, like music and art. Regardless, I was stuck in the lower-level math classes in my senior year of high school, which were too easy for me. Granted, we did learn life skills like how to keep track of payments, how to calculate appropriate tax, etc. Now being the dumbed-down class, it was a mix of kids who did not blend well together. You know those classes that you see the list of names, and you know these are the kids that feed off negative attention and reaction? Welcome to my math class. Besides the teacher, and the paraprofessional, I only cared for 2 other students in the class because they were my friends. The first couple of days my teacher, T, would give us brain teasers about math. I only had a question on the last one. After going over some sort of lesson in the first couple week in my senior year, one of the Kevins asked, "What is the difference between an even and an odd number?" I knew what the difference was before going into kindergarten. This was the same Kevin that also asked what the difference between consonants and vowels were. I felt like I was genuinely losing brain cells. T, regardless, did extremely nice things for the class such as buy 2 periods lunch on Valentine's Day, though, the day was just a coincidence. The students would at least always thank T whenever T went above and beyond. Learning was still tough, because the class was so rowdy. There were times, when they would start randomly, and inappropriately, speaking in fake heavy British accents. It was annoying as all get out. It would be things like, well this bloke won't share his water. Speaking of which, they would put liquid flavoring in each other's drinks in an unsanitary way. This would escalate the class to swearing, and T had such a hard time controlling the class. T was always doing the best he could. After the whole pandemic started we switched to online classes, and while I was taking a test online, I had to be on the call, and look at my emails simultaneously for the questions. This girl Kevin started signing. Her mic was not muted and it was really distracting. I didn't want to turn down the volume, because I still had to know if T said anything. She wasn't even good, but she thought she could genuinely sing. Anyways, I somehow managed to survive the math class full of Kevins, and came out with an A+. This happened a couple of weeks ago to my wife and I. We were out at the shops picking up a click and collect, order online and pick up in store once they pick it for you in case it's only an Australian thing, and then popped into the supermarket to grab a few groceries. This chain has the free fruit for kids at the front, so our youngest, 18 months, picked out an apple for himself and sat in the trolley eating it while we got what we needed. When we had nearly finished, he suddenly started coughing like he was choking. My wife grabbed him out, and got him to cough out the tiny piece of apple he was choking on. Of course though, once it was free he decided he didn't want any of the contents in his stomach to remain and bought it up all over himself and my poor wife. She took him to the back of the store while I cleaned up what little hit the floor, and started cleaning him and her up. As we were, someone stacking the shelves was pushing a trolley from the back. As soon as he saw us he ran to the back, grabbed us some paper towel, then went back to grab a bag to take all the rubbish away for us immediately. It was only a little thing but at that time it meant a lot that he didn't just pretend he didn't see us, and keep walking. I didn't catch his name, but thankfully when I rang back later to pass on my gratitude the manager recognized him from my description and assured me it would be passed on. This happened this morning. I haven't told my wife because I think she'll freak out. I needed to run to the store to pick up a few things. I parked and got out of the car, and walked toward the entrance. As I got close, I went to put on my mask, reached into my pocket where I had put it, and realized it wasn't there. It's just one of those paper healthcare masks, so I guess I didn't feel it fall out. A little annoyed at myself, I walked back to the car. As I approached the car, I saw that my mask had fallen on the ground next to my car door. I picked it up, put it on, and went into the store. As I walked through the store, I started thinking to myself that I must have eaten something weird, because my breath smelled really funky. Or maybe the store just had a funny smell today. Was someone smoking in the store or something? I don't know, whatever. So I finished grabbing the things I needed, checked out, and returned to my car. As I opened the door, I saw it. My mask sitting on the driver's seat of my car. I was confused for a second, then it struck me. As I replayed the events of the past 20 minutes, the strange smells suddenly made sense. My mask hadn't fallen out of the car. I was wearing someone else's discarded mask, breathing their funky smoky breath, maybe getting their germs or worse. I nearly puked at the thought of it. I came home and washed my face. Now I'm sitting here disgusted with myself for thinking this trash mask was my own. I haven't told my wife. She'll probably refuse to kiss me for 2 weeks, and make me get a COVID test. DL, doctor, I thought I dropped my mask in the parking lot, found it and wore it, ignored the funky smell, then realized it wasn't mine after 20 minutes. Although there is definite possibilities in lots of missing persons cases of a simple runaway theory, but it often seems unlikely. For me, Machine Smith seems like a high possibility. Machine was a very quiet and reserved 17-year-old boy who had just recently moved from Canada to Utah and started a new school. He was quite shy and he adored video games and anime. He even described them as his escape and relaxation. On the morning of September 1, 2015, Machine's parents heard but never saw him downstairs in the kitchen and in his room. His mother heard the garage door close, assuming he'd left for school, but he never arrived at school, nor did he come home that evening. The night before, his father had caught him on his laptop after hours when the internet was supposed to be turned off, and took his laptop and phone away, but his father claimed he didn't seem very annoyed. Machine never returned home, and the only leads was a possible sighting of him at a gas station holding a sign that said Las Vegas. He never took his wallet or ID and didn't have his phone, as his father had taken it the night before. A note was found in his wallet, and although the contents haven't been revealed, his parents have indicated he may have wanted to hurt himself. He had a history of depression and had been hospitalized before. I know a lot of people suspect the parents, but I don't really see anything other than they were very suffocating. I suspect he ran away to either start a new life or, unfortunately, most likely committed suicide. Is there any other cases you suspect are runaway? Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. My life has been rough for a couple of years. In order to process what's happened and save our marriage, my husband and I have been in therapy. On Monday before therapy, my husband really hurt my feelings. So by the time therapy rolled around, I was so upset. I don't ever cry, and I was full boohoo 10 minutes in. I really laid my heart out. Our therapist asked us about how we split out household responsibilities. I said I do it all, even my husband's laundry. He turned to me and said, "I never asked you to do my laundry." I was so mad. He hands me baskets of clothes and he doesn't ever do laundry, but fine. The therapist steered the subject away from it and we went on. After therapy, he went to do some work and I went to maliciousness. I pulled all his clothes clean and dirty and threw them back on the floor where he leaves them. I haven't done his laundry since. Enjoy doing your own laundry, honey. I know this is minor, but it sure did make me feel good. Context: I want to get revenge on my best friend by being annoying. I text them constantly in multiple social media accounts till I'm blocked, sign them up for spam mail, but now I want a little more. So far I have Christians or people of faith go to his house to spread the word of God every Sunday to annoy him. I have sent him glitter bombs and strange things. Question: but like with the online spam mail, I wonder if there was a site that sends actual mail. I still really love my best friend, so I don't want to actually hurt him. But if you have any way to annoy him, feel free to share. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. We, my manager and I, Discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. This isn't quite the normal Karen, "You can't fire me because I don't work here" story. Oh no, this is a wholesome one. So this happened yesterday evening at McDonald's, out here in the Netherlands. I'd been cycling all day, and my mom treated me with a trip to McDonald's that evening. A nice young lady asked whether we wanted to eat our food or take it home. We said we wanted to take it away, and she pointed us inside to order. So we both went in to order. My mom hasn't got a clue how those order screens work. I stayed inside to collect the order, my mom went back to her car. So I stand there for a long time, waiting for my order to pop up on the screen. I was standing next to the order screens, but at a reasonable distance. We still have to keep 1.5 meters distance. Also, I was wearing green trousers and a black t-shirt. Definitely, not / the McDonald's uniform. In come two old ladies with a young girl, probably one of their grandchildren. They picked the order screen right next to me. I was basically just staring at the screen, after all it's been longer than normal to order. I see one of the old ladies scrolling through the menu where you can pick burgers, fries, sauces, etc. Meanwhile she was just continuously saying "Where's the McCrocket?" After a while I decide to help them. I said it's under the burgers tab. She managed to find that menu, after which the veggie, beef, fish, or chicken menu popped up. "It's not here," she says. I told her it's under the beef menu. A little while later, I helped them get through their order. Now comes the interesting part. The lady asks, "Do you work here?" Now, if you remember correctly, I was definitely not wearing anything that looked mildly like the McDonald's uniform. "I don't," I said. "It's very nice of you that you helped us." "You're welcome." She then proceeds to tell me about a friend of a niece or something, who works there at times. If you like reading, please continue. If you don't, that's all the r/I don't work here lady for today. So apparently, the lady who let us in noticed I was still standing there. Due to this nice encounter with old people, I hadn't been watching the screen. You'll never guess what happened. My order number 066, had disappeared. It hadn't gone to the ready to pick up side. It just disappeared. So the lady who let us in came to me, and asked what my order number was. I told her it was number 066. She also looked at the screen. She also couldn't find it. She then grabbed my receipt, and walked to the counter. She didn't shout at the counter staff, but she said the following in a pretty compelling tone. "Make me this," she said. No more than a minute later, my order number was called out and I walked out. That was that. Thanks for reading this post. So I've been on a really bad sleep schedule and I've been waking up at like 6 p.m. lately. My husband has been working from home so he's awake during normal hours. He also has been streaming lately and since I'm not awake the cat has become very clingy with my husband and stays in his office while he streams. I woke up and chatted with my husband for a bit before he went back into his office to continue streaming. The cat got locked out so he started meowing at the door. I went over to let him in but you know cats are indecisive when you open a door so I decided to pick him up then putting him in there. When I bent down to pick him up the lower right part of my back gave out. I felt the most intense pain shoot down my right leg and right side of my back and just collapsed onto the ground. I screamed in pain and my husband freaked out not knowing what to do. We waited 10 minutes to see if my pain subsided, but eventually an ambulance was called and off I went to the hospital. My sciatic nerve decided today was the day for it to be angry. My doctor prescribed me muscle relaxers and pain meds, and now I'm sitting on my couch trying my hardest not to do anything too crazy. So yeah, thanks to me trying to help my clingy cat go cuddle up on my husband, I thought I paralyzed myself and ended up taking a very expensive ambulance ride to the hospital for some muscle relaxers and pain meds. TL, doctor picked up my cat, back gave out, thought I was paralyzed, was just sciatic nerve being mean, expensive ambulance ride, and prescribed pain meds and no more picking up kitties. Cat tax. At my last job, and now in my current job, I would have these mandatory performance reviews that include my performance goals for the upcoming year. When I sign up for these, it's with the express purpose of preparing for a merit increase at the end of the period. This never happened in my last job because they were always making bad decisions that left them scrambling to make ends meet, much less try to give people pay raises. In my new job, of course, there's been an impact from COVID, so I was told there would be no merit increases this year because there's no money available. Okay, I get it, and it's fine because I wasn't eligible this time around anyway, but for next year, they're already saying no raises at the end of this year, but they still want us to do the performance reviews and goal setting. Of course you want your workforce to continue to improve and to meet the demands of the job, but I'm doing that. I just get a kind of minor issue with putting in the effort to do the performance review, but with no payoff from me in it. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way. In my last job, it was completely pointless because no one even cared, not the employees, the bosses, or the managers. It was just a box you had to check, but here, it's like you're supposed to be all chipper about it like it's going to mean something. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. Hello average r/Tifu reader, heads up, no I didn't have sex with a spider, so this is not one of those spicy Tifus, and if you have arachnophobia, you best close the page now. A bit about myself, I love ants, bees, spiders, try to love all animals, but have a special thing for spiders. I can't imagine people killing bugs. For me, they have as much right to live as we do. Years ago, I even had one pet spider that followed me along wherever I went, loved that tiny little thing, but my mother vacuumed it. Frown, I'm not a saint either though, I vacuum the occasional centipede, so we all draw the line somewhere I guess. I think it's sad when a spider gets stuck in a house, they usually die from dehydration, so I try to give them a droplet of water, and it's usually a joy when they instantly drink it. They dive in it like bathing, and absorb the water. Some directly drink it, some play it cool, and drink it when they think you are gone, some just rebel and avoid it. Usually when they are in my room, I either let them be, or free them whenever I can, but it's nice keeping them too, they kinda protect you from other bugs. Fast forward today, and the price I paid for my love, I notice a tiny little cute spider on my monitor. I'm like, oh how cute, it's making a little tiny web on my monitor. Smile. It was a joy to watch. With great effort, I captured the tiniest spider, and threw it out. 3 to 4 minutes later, what is that? Another tiny spider is hanging down from the ceiling, just above my glasses. I captured this one too, and threw it out. At this point, I kinda sensed something was wrong. 2 tiny spiders in succession, it wasn't right. Then another one came down, and I knew, the thing that I've been afraid of all this time, had happened. Apparently a spider gave birth to hundreds of babies, and now my entire room is covered with tiny spiders, and since I love them so much, I can't get myself to vacuum them either, so I just endlessly capture and throw the tiny little things out. I honestly don't know whether my love will survive all these baby spiders. I'm kinda itching psychologically, but I can't get myself to vacuum them either, so I'm flipped up. Just stumbled onto their mother, she's like 1.5 centimeters, ugh she's ugly smile. And one of the babies, like 1.5 millimeters, I swear they look cute in real life, I'm just a lousy photographer. DL, Dr. : I don't kill spiders, one of them gave birth to 100s in my room and ruined me. I was referred over from r/Baltimore and wanted to share this. I'm hoping there are others that have the ability to look more in public records, etc. and can uncover more details. I struggled with if I should post about this and have been debating for a while. There is another case in Baltimore that to my knowledge has never been discussed or gotten much coverage. One of the victims was my friend, Emily House, and I was there on her last night while she was out with all of us. I lived in Baltimore at the time. Both deaths were ruled an accident, but it never sat well with me. Seeing the attention the Ray Rivera case got, I finally decided to bring this up in hopes maybe armchair investigators can provide some help. I can provide more information if interested, but first I'll start with Emily specifically. On October 15, 2011, she went home from the bar with a guy she had met that night. The next day unfolded as one of the worst in my life, as we couldn't find her and eventually heard the news about a body being found in a dumpster. Emily had gone down the trash chute in the Park Charles and was discovered the next day. She was 23. After a police investigation and initially holding the guy she went home with for 72 hours, he was cleared of any wrongdoing. Emily was found without her phone or purse, they were still in the guy's apartment. The police said she left on her own accord in the wee hours of the morning, walked down the hall barefoot and accidentally put herself into the trash chute. The doors to the chutes in the Park Charles were spring-loaded, making it almost impossible for a sober adult to achieve this, let alone a drunk 23-year-old girl. The jarring thing about this is that the same thing happened to a man just a few months earlier. This was also ruled an accident. This is the part of the Ray Rivera story that stuck out to me, the BPD just taking the simple explanation to a tough case. CBS article from 2011. Baltimore Sun. Another Baltimore Sun article. There are more details that I could share, but I think that's enough for now. If there is interest, I'd be happy to participate further. One thing I'd really like to share is that Emily was one of the most beautiful, vibrant, positive souls you could ever meet. She was nothing but pure love, spontaneity, and happiness, and it's truly awful that she was lost so young. Some additional things that I know. The suspect was definitely an international Hopkins student and was at the pregame party as a friend of a friend. This was corroborated by another user in r/Baltimore. I do know that the toxicology report came back with nothing but alcohol in her system, which is why the police ruled it an accident. Her family asked for an independent toxicology report. Emily lived in Pennsylvania and was visiting his college friends in Baltimore for the weekend. Tifu at the park. Disclaimer, this event happened right before COVID really hit the States, not today. So I have a huge red husky, and I decided to take him with me to do my walk around this local park. It's a pretty big park that has a 1.5-mile walking trail and a big playground by the parking lot. So I'm walking my dog when a kid with no shoes and no shirt comes running up to us. He's definitely older than 1 but younger than 3. I stopped and asked him his name and if he knew where his family was. I look around and see lots of kids playing but nobody looking for someone. The kid just stares at me and pets my dog. So I said okay, I'm going to go back up to the playground so your parents can find you. He turns around and runs a few feet away toward the playground. Now I'm about halfway up the trail, which is over a hill and around a huge lake from the playground. The kid comes running from behind me and starts walking with me. Yeah, I'm nervous because I look like I'm leading this lone unclothed child away from his family, so I decide to walk back towards where I found him. Meanwhile I'm asking him questions and he completely ignores my presence until he says indeed I'm going to guess that was his name. 10 or so minutes pass and we reach the big hill I started at. 3 kids about his age come running up to him saying his name. They take him and drag him up the hill where a woman hugs him and says something I can't hear. From the very top he looks back at me, points to my dog and asks, "Is that a fox?" So he understood English the whole time and thought it was a good idea to walk a mile with no shoes with a stranger and an animal that he believed to be a fox. DL, Doctor, I accidentally looked like a child kidnapper at the park and lured a kid to me with a fox on a leash. Tifu by sleeping. I work from home, as many of us do, and I accidentally fell asleep while working today. Did I take a normal nap? No. I slept for more than 3 hours straight. I am lucky enough that I didn't miss any important meetings or calls, and I'm just very behind on my own projects. I'll likely be up until midnight at this point trying to catch up. Normally, I don't work on such tight deadlines. However, this day in particular I took on a larger unfinished project from my boss that was top priority and told him on our call, it'll be done by the end of the day. Velp, it's now 7 p.m. and I haven't even started. DL, Dr. Tifu by accidentally falling asleep while working from home, took an extremely long nap, and missed a big assignment I promised my boss would be finished by now.